The article 36 years later, the climate changes at this national park stunned me, written by John Waterman is an argument about climate change. It argues how climate change is harmful to nature in national parks and should be fixed. In the text given, he uses metaphors and similes to strengthen his argument. I am going to explain how Waterman uses similes and metaphors to support this argument that climate change has drastically changed a place he knows well. In the text highlighted in yellow below, Waterman tells us global warming has taken the permafrost out of the proverbial freezer. This is a metaphor. Waterman uses a metaphor to compare global warming to permafrost being taken out of a freezer. When something is taken out of a freezer, it is in a warmer area and melts. This is the same thing that is happening to the permafrost. Because global warming warms up the planet, the atmosphere gets warmer and causes the permafrost to melt. This is what Waterman is trying to say. This metaphor helps give the reader the idea of what climate change is doing. Now that the reader understands what climate change is doing, Waterman can then explain why it's bad when permafrost melts without the reader being confused of what climate change is doing. Let's look at the text highlighted in red now. It says it's as if frozen spinach was left out on the kitchen counter. This is a simile. It compares frozen spinach being left on the kitchen counter to permafrost and climate change. The simile is pretty similar to the metaphor that was highlighted in yellow. When frozen spinach is taken out of a freezer and left out, it begins to rot and releases gases. The same thing happens to the permafrost, as it has begun to decompose and emit carbon and methane into the atmosphere and will worsen climate change. Although Waterman could have simply just told the reader that permafrost releases gases, he uses a simile to help the reader understand what he tries to say instead. This makes his writing stronger because it compares something simple to the point he is trying to make. The reader will more likely understand what Waterman is trying to say without being confused. Moving on to the text highlighted in blue, we have that the surrounding tundra walls have melted away like butter. This is when Waterman is talking more about the effects that climate change has on the national park. The highlighted blue text is a simile since it uses the word like to compare. This simile compares the tundra walls to melting butter. Butter melts very quickly, so the tundra walls have melted away. When the tundra walls have melted away like butter, they must have melted very quickly too. This forms that type of image in the reader's head of the melting permafrost. It will be easier for the reader to understand how fast the permafrost melts with the images in their head instead of just words. Now that they understand the speed of which the permafrost melts, they will know that climate change is already starting to create changes.